pottery, broken and discarded, O'Arwisters combine traditional crafts into a dimension-woven tapestry, stripping both cloth and ceramic of their intended function. In his new series of sculptures titled Cheesecake, the works have transformed from something broken, needing mending, to fully determined and self-aware. Being Black and queer, the full complexity of the moniker cheesecake, used to objectify an attractive, sexualized man or woman, is not lost to O'Arwisters. Instead, he embraces it, subverting the demeaning implication and describing his said objects, combining lacy, embellished fabrics with ceramics contributed by students and faculty from California State University at Long Beach. O'Arwisters' sculptural hybrids embody both danger and seduction in his bold coming-of-age works. Ramekon O'Arwisters is the founder of Crochet Jam, a community arts project infused with folk art traditions that foster a creative culture and cooperative relationships. Born in Kernsville, North Carolina, O'Arwisters earned a master's in divinity from Duke University Divinity School in 1986. He was an artist in residence at the DeYoung Museum, the Jurassic Resident Artist Program, and the Vermont Studio Center. Grants and awards include Arcadia, the Fund for Art and Dialogue, New York, the San Francisco Foundation, and the San Francisco Arts Commission Cultural Equity Program. He received the 2014 Eureka Fellow, awarded by the Fleischacker Foundation in San Francisco. His work has been featured in the LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, 7x7 magazine, ArtNet, and the San Francisco Examiner. I also want to mention that today's program is co-presented with the Headland Center, and we will talk a little bit more around Ramekon's residency as we get deeper into this conversation today. Thank you everyone for joining us. And so I just want to start off with Ramekon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So far, so good. So far, so good.
Everything's good for you. You're in a positive, happy space right now.
Now I am.
Awesome. Generally, how are you? You know, just to get the elephant out of the room right here. How are you doing being in quarantine?
Well, I think I'm lucky in that, being an artist, I spend a lot of time alone in my studio. A lot of time, because the work can't get done, and unless it's a collaboration. So I'm used to it to some degree, but not to the extent that we're dealing with it now. So I think it would have been even more of a difficult for me if I did not have some idea. Plus, I meditate, so I'm used to spending 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day in meditation. So I'm used to having my thoughts and my time alone that isn't so disruptive. And since meditation is very good, it helps improve creativity and many other things. It has a very good upside to it.
Okay.
But I do have a difficult time with the idea of being like, when I'm in my studio, I certainly can leave. Now, no, that isn't possible.
And you're in your studio. Are you going out and into a studio, or where's your studio located?
My studio is my second bedroom in my condo. So I figured if I wait to have enough money to afford her, that may come one day, but it's not happening now. So I don't wrestle with it. I go, yeah, this is what I have. I'll accept it. I'll be grateful for it. I mean, no one wants to hear about someone who owns a condo in San Francisco about how difficult times are, right? So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut and turn my second bedroom into my studio.
Are you finding yourself working? I mean, having the studio at home, obviously it gives you more access to being able to work whenever you want to. But now that you're not able to go out, into the world and do your normal things, do you find yourself in the studio more often, or has that changed at all for you?
Well, I'm in there more often because I figure, after I retired from from the museum, I thought, well, I need to change my work day from the office to my studio day. 6 hours in the studio. If that means I'm actually, sculpting, or I'm just sitting there with ideas, but the minute you're in the studio, things happen. You're gonna touch something and see something that needs to be repaired. Something in my case that needs to be broken. You know, or torn up or cut into strips of fabric, or crocheting. So I can crochet in the studio, I can crochet in the kitchen, on the sofa. I can crochet anywhere in the condo. So I figured I am doing more work now because I'm pretty much it's all around me and there's no distractions. Or there,
Okay.
other than now we're in this I call it the planet of now. The planet of now. Because now, in the moment, you will want to be able to have a distraction, go talk to your friends, have a cup of tea at a cafe, have dinner, but you can't do that. So you have to be in the moment of now. Now I'm feeling this anxiety at what I cannot do. So what are you going to do with those feelings? On the planet of now. And for me, it's my studio, which has always been, I've always been able to trust my creativity. It's never asked me to lie or cheat or steal or, it's only asked me to be courageous. And so I can, there's very few things I trust, but I can absolutely trust my creativity. And if I say that, then how do I make that abstract idea concrete? Then I work.
So are you keeping yourself bound to that 6 hours a day? You talked about
sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but there's not much else I need to do. Like sometimes I may be working on grants or writing proposals for grants, or photographs, for publicity on the gallery website or my website, or it's all art related. It's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I do. I don't know what else, I've been working painting and drawing since I was, in junior high. I have photographs, I have objects that I have from that period that I look back and I think, do I really want to keep these? but it shows that, since junior high and through high school, college, in Israel, in Japan, in San Francisco, I have all this work that I've been doing. How I feel about it is a different question, but the work is there.
Is there? Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you started talking about work in junior high. Can you kind of take us back into the journey of who you are as an artist? When did you first discover that you wanted to become an artist? This was your life path.
I think if I really thought about it and knew what was involved, I probably would have stayed on my original path of being a geologist and getting my master's and PhD in geology. I don't, I don't think I would have, stayed on in divinity school. I got but if I knew how difficult it was, but I had no choice. It's who I am. So when I first started as an artist, I was coming of age with my sexuality, and I knew that my parents didn't quite know how to raise a Black child in the Jim Crow South.
Mm-hmm.
A queer Black child. It's difficult enough to raise a Black child.
Sure.
Right, and then throw in there the gay and queer element. So I knew that my parents, because I knew that I could tell by their body language and things they didn't say, like all children can when they're with their parents and other authority figures, that they were concerned that I was not interested in, worrying about, Jane or Sally or little girls, and I'm my age in the neighborhood. I wasn't really hanging out with, and I wasn't playing football, those interests. I was drawing and doing my homework on the kitchen table. So that means that I wasn't taunting the police. I wasn't selling drugs, right? I wasn't getting little girls pregnant, or I wasn't being. He's doing his homework. He's painting and drawing. It's fine. So they never questioned the issues of my sexuality were never a question, because I knew how to navigate and make them feel comfortable about, well, would you rather have this? Or would you rather have that?
So for you, did they coincide your practice as an artist? Did that coincide with your coming out, or your self realization?
That, that,
Is that
that didn't happen until after I left, while I was in Japan, and that was in my 20s. So, when I first started, art was a way for me to hide. It was a way for me to be able to navigate my feelings or worldview through art. Because
okay?
I wasn't, and to be honest, I wasn't painting what I was thinking and feeling. I was doing line
Mhm.
drawings and pretty stuff that didn't really unpack what I was, like the homophobia in the Black church, in the Black America, the um, uh, um, the need to maintain the heterosexual normalcy, because the whole idea of being Black, and like my parents may have thought that maybe white people had the luxury to be gay and that kind of stuff, whereas Black people can't afford. There's all kinds of stuff happening that's, some of it's absurd, but most of life, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
to be alive is to be surrounded by absurdity, given even our certain, even our current situation can add some credence to that. So that's how I started. I started as a way to be able to calm the feelings and emotions of those around me who are in authority. Whereas now
Okay.
I don't have to worry about that, because it's not an issue now. Now I can manifest my authenticity.
So what brought you to Japan? You've alluded a couple times to Japan being
Well,
this.
Japan, I mean, I figured, I could not be who I needed to become and stay Black and gay in North Carolina in the '70s. I didn't want to be a minister. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I figured the best thing to do was, like, how far can I go? I had friends who were expats, living or going to go live in Japan, and they invited me to go with them. So I thought, well, how far can I go?
Not much further than
Not much
that.
further. There's, completely not a word of Japanese at the time, a round trip ticket, and I told my mother and my mother that I was going to go to Japan, and she was like, she thought, wait, you spent all this time getting a master's, and you're gonna do what in Japan? What? You're gonna be an artist in Japan? And so my mother, we're in the driveway of and my mother was pretty distraught about the whole idea, because I think she liked the idea of being her son being, the minister, head of a church and all that. I thought
It was that the intent of you getting your master's in divinity, was to become a minister?
and,
Wow.
and that didn't happen. So my mother was out in the parking lot, and my father, who was, it's a Sunday, he was, watching football in his underwear, because this is the only day to be, do what he wants to do. He's in this, and he was really pissed off that he had to, put his pants on and come outside and see what my mother and I were, like, making all that noise about. And she, and my father said to me, he said, "Do you have a ticket?" I said, "Yeah." So he said, "Well, okay, good. Get in the car. I'll drive you to the airport."
Wow.
My mother was like, oh no, all hell broke loose after that. She was like, I thought she was crying before, but no, it became all, and, and she and I were like, it was, and then he said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Get in the car and I will drive you to the airport. Because I figured, he was saying, because he went to the Navy. How else? And when he was living, he said he didn't say anything about the Navy. He didn't say one word about the Navy. This is the Jim Crow Navy in the '40s, right? Segregated Navy in the '40s. Most of the Black men there were either cooking, serving officers, or polishing their shoes. White officers. Only thing he said about that was in World War II was it was better than being at home. I thought,
Okay.
Really.
So in a lot of ways, you were following in his footsteps,
Follow his footsteps. He goes, "You want to go
escaping the Jim Crow South to
Just
kind
look
of
out."
discover
Oh,
yourself.
he didn't ask me. I said I only had a one-way ticket to Japan.
Wow.
He's like, hey, if you get back, you get back. You'll figure it out. So I said, and I knew that if I, because my father had, I knew he had made a decision to come back and live in a small town, middle of nowhere. He knew what would happen if I stayed. And he's asking me, because if I broke down with my mother's tears and I was in my mid-20s, I could be broken down by mother's tears for the rest of my life. And he knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Said, get in the car. I'm only going to ask you one more time. Otherwise, I'm going to go back into the house, take my pants off, and watch football.
Oh, I love it. I love that fatherly love of like, let's just make it. You want to do this? Let's just make it happen.
Make it happen. But I'm not putting up with this. I've seen this too many times. I'm not doing it. So,
Yeah. Can you tell us the rest of how your family? I read your bio at the beginning, and you kind of talked about quilting with your grandmother. How does family inform your work or the experience of your family and your ancestors?
Well, my family, no one in my family expressed their worldview using oil paint on canvas.
Sure.
No one was using that as the to-go fine art point of view. They were using fabric. My grandmother, my mother were all expressing their joys and pains and their hopes through their quilts, their work that they made. They made their own clothes. My mother and grandmother did. And they made all these things out of fabric. And my father worked for 35 years in a cotton mill. It was Haynes Cotton in Winston-Salem.
Oh, wow.
Right? 35 years. My mother worked there too as a piecemeal worker, sewing sleeves onto T-shirts. And I would go visit, and it'd just be a room full of women, most of them working on these, and they would be in rhythm with the sewing machine because they have to make sure that they make enough of them piecemeal to get their bonuses. Mm-hmm. And they had to, anyway, so and no one walked around wearing painted canvas as part of their garment. Everyone was wearing clothes and fabric. So I thought, I need to let go of being angry about the art world as it comes to like, why isn't art world looking at my work? Why aren't it paint? But I wasn't being authentic in my worldview. Painting wasn't authentic to my cultural experience. Working in fabric is.
Okay.
Right? So when I let go of trying to put, my square Black queer experience into a round, Western European point of view, or any way you want to flip it, everything changed. My anger changed because you know what? I'm not going to try to get into that. I'm going to make what I want to see out of fabric, right? And then do for fabric what fabric has done for me. I mean, it allowed me with my grandmother. It allowed me to be able to be embraced and calm. So when I work with fabric, it takes me all the way back to childhood memories of being, who I need to become with fabric. So, but before that, I wasn't paying any attention. I mean, all these stories were there, but I wanted to do that Western European oil on canvas, and because that was what I was told. That's an artist, But the whole thing about being a Black male working with fabric, it's like alrighty then, like that is a male macho kind of like, that too was, I'm not that. I'm not the epitome of Black and masculine identity. Who needs to be? Who wants to be? Somebody else to be. Not mine. My job is to be who I am as authentically as I can as an artist, through whatever material is authentic to my experience.
So when did you, as an artist, I mean, I came into my awareness of your work, I would say when you had your solo show at the luggage store in the early 2000s.
It's been a little while ago.
I'm like, I don't even remember what it was anymore. At that time, there was definitely fabric incorporated into your work. But the piece that I instantly fell in love with was Stated Above the Salt.
Yes.
The throne that
Yeah.
you created that rested on these champagne
Glass.
glasses, I believe, or champagne flutes that had salt in them, that were meticulously pieced together. You did have elements of clothespins and
Yes.
I don't know, hat pins, I guess, or the
Yes.
straight
Yes. And
pins.
puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and very complex, and I remember seeing it and just being like, I don't know what it is, but this is gorgeous. It's important. It gave me an emotional feeling that I instantly connected with, and I had to then find out what it was about this piece that moved me in such a way. But then so that's where I first became aware of you, and I was just like, whoever this person is, we've got to have him at the museum. I've got to have
Thank you.
him in a show. This guy is amazing. And then you've kind of I noticed, at least from my awareness, and there was a shift to you working with the softer fabrics, the crocheting and the works, that I think you've been doing pretty much ever since that time. What created that shift for you?
Well, the idea of what materials really reference who I am. The whole idea of like fighting with, like I've always been told that that marginalized materials isn't fine art. And we've been told all kinds of things all of our lives. Doesn't mean it's true, right? So if I want to use fabric, and it's and everything around me says, well, that isn't fine art, then I can say, what do I say? What do I want? Who am I? And how do I want to define myself on my own terms with any material? And and can I say, well, can I be subversive? Can I be like, no, I don't care. If the contemporary art scene is saying this, well, what does it have to do with me? Because they're not paying me any attention anyway. So why can't I define myself through an authentic experience on my own terms and let that carry the day? So, if I ride off in the sunset and I've not been in the major museums or whatever, that's okay. I've been able to be comfortable, calm, and authentic in what I call my worldview through the materials that I use. And even and to be subversive is great. Like, yeah, so there's strips of fabric. So how's that different than canvas is still fabric. It's still oil paint on fabric or acrylic on fabric. So I didn't, and I thought, what, I'm in an age where now it's like, I'm letting go of all what should have been, because I can't spend my life navigating in what should have been, because if it ain't happening by now, it ain't going to happen.
I love that, and I love that you say that, your choice of material, because it is very common types of material, and actually one of the things that I appreciate is none of your materials are ultra precious. By themselves, it's when you assemble them together and you make these beautiful objects of desire, that I think they become just this invaluable piece of artwork. And I think in a lot of ways you were ahead of the curve. I think the art world in the last couple of years has started to embrace craft within the fine art context, but you've been doing this for decades. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And then, just for everyone to know the format of it, I want to probably go with questions and my discussion with you for maybe about until 1:30ish, and then we want to do a studio visit, and then we're going to open up for Q&A from the audience. So as ideas and questions start to come to you, you can start typing them in the Q&A, and we'll address them. But yeah, I want to hear more about your material choice, and in a lot of ways, again, for me, you've been very much ahead of the curve in terms of that. Now it's very trendy, at least with the art market, to see people working in crochet and knitting and in traditional craft, and has now become embraced. as fine art material, but you've been doing it all along. Have you seen changes in the art market in terms of your own work and your own popularity, or the art market accepting you?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of, that's a very acceptance. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not, right? So if you crave acceptance, you're going down a very slippery slope, because we all too soon may fall from grace. So I figure that, as when I was a curator at the museum, I would like the idea of artists being visible. You do your work, I'll hear about you, I find you.
Sure.
Don't, because that's my job, is to find the artist. If you're knocking on my door and saying, well, here I am, well then, why not invite me to your shows? Like, send an invitation and I'll show up, so that I'm not always feeling as though, you want to be discovered. As an artist, you want to be discovered. So I figured the best thing I need to do with my art is get it out there. And then people who will chime with what I'm doing will come to me, instead of me always having to send out all that energy. Here I am. And they go, so what? There's how many billions of artists are there out there? So why should I look at your work and no one else? And what makes it? And I think, well, so the only reason why they look at it is that it's something in them that resonates, and they are interested in it. And if they're not, then they're not. So and it's fabric, and it's not as though it's fabric and right now, and ceramics, because it's from, to me, that is the best way to use those materials, are the best way for me to express what it feels like to be in a country where, with the permanence of racism, it's just absurd. It's absurd, and the list goes on of what it is. Really, there's many other things that can be to describe it, but but my experience is mine. Yours is yours. How can I help people to connect with their own emotions, their own pain, their own, not mine, because mine's mine. How do I want to use it? My joy, whatever. How I want to express it is up to me. I'm not asking people to because you can't experience what it means to be Black in America unless you are. Mm-hmm. But how do I help people understand their own emotions? So, on a level that's unconscious, like dream language, these bizarre broken pieces of ceramics, sharp and pointing, coming out, and then this wrap with all these beautiful colors.
In the artist studio events kind of give people
it's dangerous,
the behind the scenes that the majority of us don't ever get.
Shards away. But we throw people who are like shards away all the time. Mm-hmm. Governments do that. Not just ours, all of them do it. Ours may have a different degree of which they do it, but they all do it. Right. So symbolically, I'm saying, that's how I feel. That's what it feels like for me to be, in the U.S. and and have to chew, swallow, and digest what it means, what the permanence of racism means, or any of the isms for that matter. They're not going away. They were here when I got here, and I bet you they'll be here when I'm gone.
So for you, the ceramic and it is a representation of humans,
yes.
and the marginalized humans.
Yes, because it's like the material, like fabric is marginalized. Mm-hmm. The ceramics are marginalized. People are marginalized. Right. So that's the
these in the artist studio events kind of give people.
I'm using abstract materials to reference a concrete experience. Mm-hmm. Not like a dream. Like, we all, in dream language, all our dreams they're not literal, they're symbolic. Mm-hmm. And to get people to think symbolically, you don't want to go to their conscious mind. I'm not interacting with anyone's unconsciously anymore. My artwork is going to tap into the unconscious. I want them to be like, so worked up that when they go to Safeway and the rain falls on the vegetables and they got a head of lettuce, and it's weeping, and they are crying too. And they don't know why they're crying, because we're holding in so much. We have to,
especially during these times, right?
When you're on a planet of now, and you know,
Mhm.
and you can't do your own thing anymore. You have to be in quarantine if you're wise. You have to deal with, well, what were those distractions distracting me from? What pain, what anxiety, what unhappy memories, what? And will I self-medicate? Will I drink? Will I overeat? Will I, you know, or would I do some helpful stuff, like, you know, healthy stuff like exercise, eat more veg? I don't, you know, that kind of thing. But we really are becoming aware of how distractions were covering up a lot of emotional turmoil.
So would you say, I mean, it kind of sounds to me like, you know, you went to study divinity and get your master's in it, but in a way that that work finds its way, that spiritual healing work does find its way into your actual work.
Well, yes, it
Do
does.
you see
I
it
mean,
that way?
that's how I interpret it, right? Other people may look at it and have a whole indifferent, and that's great, because, you know, um, no one, they don't have to see it. Once I make it, I've expressed it.
Hmm. Hmm.
People can respond to it any way they like. I mean, I get all kinds of stuff, but I've done, because if I was a writer, I would write about it, right? If I was a poet, I know, but I make objects, I make, you know, sculpture, and that's my way of being able to express the unexpressible.
And now you're working with CSU Long Beach to obtain your ceramics. What was that choice around?
Well, you know, the idea was that uh, Pat Sweeto, she has the artists who work there. There are some of the teachers there, some of the students there, and the whole idea of being able to collaborate with um, students and faculty, with the whole idea of using ceramics in another context for a different purpose,
Hmm.
outside of just making them, you know, at the collaboration. So, you know, so I create artwork, you know, and I have it, you know, I pay for it to be shipped up here, all that, and then I also donate to the organization.
Oh,
Uh,
great.
so that kind of thing. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But the whole idea of using, moving toward studio ceramics that are one of a kind,
Okay.
don't exist anywhere else, and they're broken, and they're gorgeous.
So do they arrive to you already broken, or
Oh,
are
yeah.
you destroying them?
No, they come broken.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then, you know, the UPS person, he or she may drop it, you know, and then, you know, and that's okay. I can handle that. Otherwise, people will be very upset if things, you know, come to you and they're broken. But I'm like,
Sure.
like, look at that shape. It wouldn't, if I thought about it, right? I wouldn't, if I thought about it, it wouldn't break that way.
Sure.
It will
Sure.
break the way it wants to break, you know. But I have to accept it in the same way I want to be who I want to become. You know, and I know that I say these. I don't see a distinction between the material world and how we think. Most people think that's because you're crazy, but we'll go with you.
Hmm.
I don't see that. I don't see a difference between the waking world and the dream world. It's a thin veil. You can walk through back and forth through both, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So when I talk about broken and dream language, you know, we want to be who we are, even if we're broken. You know, even if we don't become or what other people want us to be. You know, accept us as we are. But that isn't the world we live in. If conformity is rampant, and there's penalties if you don't conform. Some of them are severe. Some of them are deadly.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go into looking at your studio, I want you to talk a little bit about Crochet Jam, and I know you make you distinguish between your art practice, Ramekon O'Arwisters, the artist, and Crochet Jam. So can you talk a little bit about Crochet Jam, how that came about, and what it is?
Well, Crochet Jam is extremely autobiographical. You know, it's a whole process where, you know, like my grandmother allowed me she made her quilt, and she knew that I was having a tough time navigating the racism and homophobia of the Jim Crow South in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, when I was becoming, you know, 10, 12, 13 years old. But we never talked about things. You know, it's the South. Everything is very not, you know, it's all there, but it's all skirted around. Everyone can feel it, but no one talks about it. But she would say, you know, she said to me one day, you know, come here, boy, help me with this quilt. And I thought, oh, grandma, that's the last thing I want to do at 12, quilting, sewing with my grandmother, right? Right? It's the last thing, you know. And then in those days with authority, you can think whatever you want, but you better be walking toward her while you're doing it.
Sure.
You put your life in danger if you stay out loud what you're thinking, and even walk other direction, you're putting your life in danger. I'm not kidding.
That old school discipline, I love it.
Absolutely. You just, you know. And then she said, you know, any color, any pattern you want, I'll show you how to add it to my quilt.
Wow.
She spent months on this quilt. I mean, it already had a pattern, and I could break the pattern, right? So in the legacy of my grandmother, that was a healing, embracing a moment for me. How can I provide that for others, for strangers, in a safe environment, in public, around the world, using fabric and a wooden hook, right?
A specialized wooden hook.
Yes, it's one of the wooden hooks. Yes, you know. So that was, you know, and let that be a part of my art. You know, I don't have nothing to sell, not to the public in any way, nothing to sell. And then you're not being told what to do. Like, as a, you know, I feel, you know, Black men there's so much being told who we need to be, what we're not, they were always being told what to do. And I thought, you know what, wouldn't it be a healing experience to be in the presence of other people and you don't feel as though someone's telling you what to do as a perceived authority? Isn't that, just for a few seconds, wouldn't that be meditative, kind of calming, very soothing? And then not be judged by what you create. I mean, so you don't know what you're making, you're just making it. Let it, just make it. It doesn't really matter. They're all your colors. That's what I want. I want not to be told what to do and not to be judged. So I figured, you know what? I am going to give that to others through the folk art tradition of rag rug making that I call crochet jam.
I love it. And some of those community projects have turned into larger installations, right?
You know, some of them, you know, for example, there are the community ones, and those, whatever people make in the community ones, it's theirs, because the organization,
the individuals,
sponsor the event. So if the organization wants to keep the materials, then that's fine, because they provided the funding for the material and for me to be able to lead the event, and it stays with the organization. So whatever they make, it stays with them, or the individual artists, or it's a performance. They're performing as a community group, right? They're all
yeah.
I don't go in going, I'm the artist. No, I'm the facilitator, and we're all working as a community, as artists. You know, like one big beehive of artists. You know, I guess I'd be the queen, I guess, in some ways. So.
Yeah, and you know, I've been able to participate in a couple of them, and I've just got to say, I was just like, wait, really? You just want me to just make whatever and go whatever direction I went to? And you know, and I noticed I wasn't the only one. I was like, am I doing this right?
Right?
You know, I think plays an impact.
Why to be told what to do, and we want to be judged. I mean, if I was on a soapbox down at on Financial Street or whatever, and I was telling people, you want to be told what to do, right? You want to be judged. You don't know what freedom is because you're so used to conforming. They would drag me off that soapbox, and vomit me to death. They're like, you know, right? But if I show them, and they have their own internal, like, oh, why am I asking him? He's just a guy behind the table. He's an authority over a table of rags. I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50, whatever it is. What does he care how it looks? Why do I need approval? I mean, these things are all so ingrained in us that we don't even think about them anymore. You know, the young people, they have no problem, right? They go, an adult not talking, hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, I would love to be able to shift towards seeing what you're working on right now.
Well, I'll give you a little, you know, I think there's some work behind me. I'm not sure if you can see any of that. Can you?
Yes, for sure. And I'm gonna make myself disappear so that we can see you on larger screen. So what are we seeing? What's happening? I can see this
Well,
piece
I'm
with
still working
the
in the same,
ceramics.
I'm still working in the same, vein of creating, cheesecake using, this one to be tough because it's all that lighting.
Yeah. Oh wow. And
So how do
you've
I get
got
phosphorus?
the watermelons
And the
also.
watermelons, right? So I thought, well, what would it, instead of trying to worry about how things look, don't worry about it. Just bring things that you don't think are a part of, that are incongruent, and let them just be there, and then see what happens. And it will lead you somewhere else, and it will lead you somewhere else, and it will lead you somewhere else. Because if I keep thinking things have to be right, then I won't do it. If I keep thinking, well, it's not about being right. It's just about exploring who you are, exploring your creativity on whatever level makes sense.
I think there's also a part with your work. The pieces that you had at the most recent Untitled Art Fair, where they defy gravity.
Oh.
And you're just like, how is that thing standing on its own? And I remember you describing that these things are very heavy, and visually now when I'm seeing the piece that's behind you, it doesn't it you don't get the sense that it has as much weight as
No, I mean,
I'm imagining it does.
that one's pretty heavy, pretty big as well. It's pretty heavy. I'm not sure the lighting may not work very well, but anyway, yes. My idea is, just trust the materials. Just trust them. Don't worry about it. You're not quite sure how am I going to do this? And if you trust the materials enough, they will reveal their secrets. They will reveal their secrets. Just trust the material. You can't make a mistake. It's already broken. The fabric's already stripped, and they're already, torn up. What can go wrong? But even in that, I have anxiety. It's like, oh, if I put it there, and then I go, okay, well, I feel that, and I move forward anyway. Just put it there and keep going. Because if I stop, then if I hesitate, then it won't reveal. It won't. I feel as though in some ways, if I hesitate, I won't. I want. What do I do with those? I don't. You don't want to do that because your mama doesn't like it, or you won't. Why not? It's just fabric. It's just a broken. What does it matter? Because we have all that baggage in our. And I still have it, but I'm in a different relationship with it. I need it, to be honest, because it pushes me. Oh well, I can do it. I mean, what's going to happen if I do this? Will the world stop revolving around? No. Will the sun? No. What power do I get? I mean, it's unbelievable. Like even the idea of using fabric, and that's like how much did I have to wrestle with the idea of that's not art.
Mm-hmm.
Who defines what art is? If I can't define it, I'm gonna let somebody else do it.
And the piece behind you, it looks like it's a much larger scale. Am I correct in that?
This one?
Yes. Or that's all one piece?
I mean, maybe I can lean the camera up.
Then it's huge. Wow. So yeah, that one is substantially. At least from this angle, it looks like it's substantially larger than the rest. Is it part of what I see all the way on the left?
No. There are different. There's two different pieces.
Oh, got it. Okay.
The light is just too. Now it's just too dark, right?
Yeah. It's okay. It's the challenges of virtual visits.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But the idea is like, that I'm very, I don't fight with things. This is what's happening. We're in quarantine. How do I see that in a positive way? Because if I fight with it, then there's physical manifestations with that resistance. If I accept it, because, the hard part is to accept things you can't change.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to accept things you can change. but to accept things you can't, you know, you know, you know, because it puts me in a whole different psychological and emotional, mental, spiritual well-being if I decide I'm going to accept it, see where it takes me in a positive way. Because if I'm always fighting, then I'll you know, I like fighting with the world around me. I can't keep fighting because I don't have enough. I won't have enough energy. I can't keep up with it. There's just too much to fight about.
That's true. That's true. Particularly in the times that we're in right now.
And then we think, you know, these times are just in the period that we find ourselves. I mean, you know, what, you know, if we were around in, you know, in the 1940s, what would that be like? Or 1918 during the influenza of 1918, right? Influenza of 1918, right? Or even, you know, or you know, even further, like I feel great comfort in the fact that I and we people who are black and brown, we have the experience and the genes of that have survived all of that. All the you know, and it's in us, and everybody has it. You know, everyone has the genes of those of the DNA that survived. We all have it, depending on what we have come to us. So we're survivors. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. I'm a survivor. You're all survivors, right? That puts a whole nother look on life, right? I'm not a victim. I've been treated as a victim, but I'm not a, you know, but I'm not a victim. You know, people have been enslaved. They were enslaved. They weren't slaves. Right? The whole idea, right? So I'm in quarantine, but for a good reason, absolutely. But how do I want to embrace it and be creative, and how do I want to use my time?
It's a great way to look at it. So I just want to I want to hear from you about what's next. You know, at the beginning I mentioned, and again, this program is co-sponsored with the Headland Center for the Arts, where you have a residency.
Yes, you know, that residency has been postponed, but I'm so excited about being out there. So I think also, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about it? I mean, I think I'm looking at who's on the line. I think we have a fair amount of artists on here right now, but you know, just what does your residency entail? Well, and you've done several residencies, so
I'll have a larger space, and I'm so happy to be able. And then that's wonderful that you know the Headlands are going to help me be able to make the pieces even larger. I can explore larger pieces with the ceramics. That's wonderful. Nice. And I'll be able to, people can be able to engage and see what I'm working on, because it'll be in a public space, so they can come in and see what's happening in the studio, how they feel about the work, how I interact with it. That's very good, because I don't think that art is art if it's not a dialogue.
Sure.
Dialogue. So I think that's and I'm happy that the Headlands and the leadership there have allowed me to be able to be a part of that. I think it's very important, and it's, you know, and art can be pushing people to think differently about the world is very powerful. It's very powerful. You know, that's one reason why all dictators around the world historically had the first thing they shut down.
Yeah, right? Or they took complete control over it.
That's right, because they don't want anyone thinking or an ideas that can push outside of the dogma and the propaganda. You know, so I you know, I think, you know, art is just like in the Headlands is definitely at the forefront of pushing ideas and letting people be able, and artists be able to explore those ideas in public. So it you know, it's a way for critical thinking to you know, to start and foster and ripple throughout, you know, throughout culture. You know, as a curator, you know, I would write the statement about the work, right? But when people read my statement, they have their own. I've already given them a point of view to see the show.
Yeah,
so I'm the authority. But my thing is, why not see the show, have your own ideas, and if you want to, read the statement.
And so is that what happens at the residency? Like people are flowing in to see your work, and you're not putting up formal statements
not there'll be a, I mean, I don't know yet. I mean, I don't anticipate putting up a formal statement. I don't mind doing that, but I do like the idea that before there is a formal statement, there can be visits. People can come out.
Sure.
You know.
Okay, and then what as an artist who's working in residency, do you find that, I know you've done several of them over the last few years. Does that interaction with the public coming in to see your work in progress, do you feel like that changes it at all?
Well, feedback is always good. Feedback, particularly with people who don't always work in the arts. Their background is diverse. Feedback is always good because I mean, I know I can have my ideas about it, but that isn't everything. It's just my idea, it's me. But how do I know how it's connecting to other people unless they're interacting and expressing their opinions about it? I mean, I know how I see these shards, but most people don't think in dream language, or they don't think about the unconscious, even though they are everything that's sold to us is through dream language in a way. It's more like
exactly
tying into unfulfilled or irrational desires associated with a product. That's the unconscious. Edward Bernays came up with the idea of getting women to smoke cigarettes in the late 80s by tying liberty with cigarette smoking. Well,
and it's very successful, huh?
Liberty. It's irrational.
Yeah.
But most people don't know that they are acting irrational based on desires that they are unconscious about. And so I want to be able to help people become aware of the fact that you're unconscious.
Because we're getting towards the end of our time at 2:00, I definitely want to invite those who are visiting us as attendees to please chime in, either using the chat box or the Q&A box with any questions that you have. So yeah, we have about 7 minutes left. And outside of, do you have any sense of when the residency may start? Have they kind of like set up further?
Well, I mean, I don't know yet. It's still being fleshed out. We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other projects that are forthcoming that you can share?
Well, I'm still working on the commission from the Arts Commission for the tapestry at the health center in the Bayview.
Wow.
So that's still, it is a bit delayed because of the pandemic, but it's still on the drawing board. We're still moving forward with it. So that too will happen, within the next, hopefully we'll start weaving for that this year.
Wow. And that, are you doing all the work for this commission, or is this also community participant?
No, it's all mine.
It's all you. Wow. Okay.
And the community part was, when a crochet jam is done, that's a community event. So the studio art, and that's only my work, or I may hire people to help me, but it's still my vision and my plan for the execution of the work.
That's amazing. Where else can folks see your work? I know there's a couple places that they can see them now.
Well, I mean, the best place would be able to see them would be on Patricia Sweeto Gallery. Mm-hmm. Her website, it's up and running, and it's really well organized, very beautiful. Patricia Sweeto Gallery. There's also my website, Ramekon.com. And that's crochetjam.com if you want to go there. But those are social practice or community art engagement and my studio work.
Awesome. So we've got a couple things in the Q&A. So Elizabeth Evans says, thank you. This has been wonderful. I look forward to more of these kinds of visits. Mr. O'Arwisters is very inspiring, and I completely agree with that. We have another person with a question. If you make larger work than you can accommodate at home while you're at Headlands, what do you plan to do with it after your residency ends?
Well, I might have to, because right now it's in every room of my condo, and they're in the kitchen, they're in the living room, they're in my bedroom. I might have to look at, plus the gallery has some of the pieces. A store, I find a place to store them.
It's gonna come to that, huh? You won't have a place to sit down.
I'm obsessed with it. I mean, that's what I'm obsessed. I have to make these pieces because every time I go into them, I'm always surprised. I don't know what's going to happen so I'm always like, what's going to happen? And then I get there, and these bizarre pieces just materialize in front of me. And I get so excited. I don't know what's going to happen. I see them as little, they're shard, like this at one time. And then the next thing I know, they're like that. They're like,
yeah.
And I know.
Is that how they have to start for you? You have these just individual piece like that, and then it transforms into these much larger.
It transforms right in front of me.
Wow.
And I am just so excited. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that we have any other questions coming through for the participants. So I want to thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today, Ramekon.
Well, thank you and the Headlands and Moad for allowing me to participate. It's very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're just one of the people that I would always love to come hang out with, and I can't wait till the quarantine is lifted and I can actually come out and get a cup of coffee with you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so Sade put up a couple of links so you can find out. You can go to the chat link and you can find Ramekon's website. You can also find out a little bit more about our co-sponsor, the Headland Center for the Arts. She also posted that. She also posted the link to Patricia Sweethill Gallery. You can also find Ramekon on social media. I follow you on Facebook and on Instagram. You guys can't see the chat today. Oh, it only went to the panelists. So we'll recopy it and send it to all attendees as well. Thank you so much for letting us know that. Let's see. I'll copy these and add them, or do we have them now? Yeah, somebody else said that. Technology, gotta love it. And yeah, so then you can also follow him on social media, and that's how I find out what you're up to when I can't meet up with you. And you're always busy. Lots and lots of crochet jams that folks can.
Well, when the quarantine is over, because right now there aren't any.
Yeah, for good cause. Maybe you could do some virtually.
We'll see how that works.
I know people can still order. I don't know if we could get your custom gigantic crochet hooks, but
that would mean violating the quarantine. But they could. You could crochet with your fingers. All you need is strips of fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a whole thing on YouTube called finger crochet. Yeah, finger crochet.
Might have to talk to you about that. I think I'm maybe having you come back for another visit with us sooner than later. It's been wonderful, Ramekon. Thank you so much for taking the time out for today.
Give my best. Go ahead. Oh, thank all of you. Yeah. Very happy that they're here.
Yes, me too. Thank you for taking the time in the middle of your day to be with us. I also want to let everyone know that this event has been recorded, and you can, if you want to watch it again, you can see it on our YouTube channel, Museum of the African Diaspora. And next week at the same time, we'll be talking with Shaniqua Brooks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. Thanks, Ramekon.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.